Do you have stage presence? Of course you do, but maybe you don't know how to tap into it. Maybe there's some confidence that's lacking. Well, today, my guest here, Erin Duffy, is going to be talking about gaining that stage presence so that you can show up confidently and share the message that you want to share. Now, Erin is she empowers business owners and leaders to project confidence and authenticity on stage, enhancing their executive presence and charisma for a greater impact on their audience, no matter the size. Erin, I'm so excited to hear what you have to share because I've been speaking for many, many years now, but there's always more that I can learn. And I know I'm going to learn a lot from you today. So I'm going to disappear and I'm going to hand it right on over to you.
That sounds good, Lynda. Thank you so much. So excited to be here and so excited to be in this wonderful group of writers and authors, and excited to be present with you and teach you a bit about the power of your stage presence. So here's the interesting thing is that, as Lynda said, we all have stage presence. And the great thing is we all can tap into that stage presence and really bring our unique self to every stage. And when I say stage, that is every room you walk into. So that is, walking in and meeting with maybe a client, or getting on stage and speaking about your book, or doing a webinar like this, or a podcast. It's every room you walk into, virtual and real. Are you bringing your authentic presence to that room? And as authors, it's going to be really, really important for you to be bringing your authentic presence to every room, because you are your book. They want to know you. And so I want to tap into helping you figure out how to feel comfortable and confident in bringing your presence to the room. So just a couple little things about who I am, like why do I love doing this? Well, again, Erin Duffy, personal brand and stage presence coach. And, I haven't always done just this. I actually worked in corporate America for over 25, 30 years. And at the same time, I had a dual career. I was a singer actor, professional singer actor. So during the day, I was in a creative agency, managing major projects. And this is kind of what my life looked like over here, my business career. These were some of my clients. I was in Silicon Valley at a creative agency, rose up to be vice president of marketing there as an executive. And at the same time, I had this very successful performing career. This is just a list of some of the shows I've been in, but I also was a singer, as far as a cabaret singer, a jazz singer, doing gigs all around the United States and some actually in Europe. And honestly, it was a total blast. I loved having this dual career. And so for 25 years, this is what my life looked like. And what was so ironic about it is that in business, I was the same as I was in performing. In business, I would work with my clients and help them find their voice and tell their story. And on stage, I would take a piece of music or take a role and I would tell a story. And what was so great about it is I love to embody the story and pull my audience in both those careers. And honestly, like I said earlier, it was a blast. But in 2017, I heard this calling. I really wish I could merge my two careers together. I wondered, what was that? What is that? And I had this thought, if I could help business leaders and business professionals find and own their voice and show up authentically, they have no competition. And I knew I could teach them that. So that's how I created my company, Inspiration Squared, as Lynda had just talked to you about. And quite honestly, my joy, my love, all comes about helping others own their voice, because there's such power in you owning your voice and going out there and feeling that comfort and that confidence in being who you are, and no longer competing with other people or comparing yourself to other people. You are you. So let's just kind of set the stage for you as a writer, as an author. I know I'm talking to people here who are either, maybe you're writing your first draft right now, you're figuring out your book, or maybe you're already working with your editor or even the publishing company, right? Whatever it is, you've already done the hard work, right? I mean, you've clarified your vision for the book, you've created the words to describe it. You found your unique voice to tell that story in your book. You refined your manuscript. You're probably back and forth right now in editing. You can't wait to publish. You are going to be birthing an incredible piece, right? And you also know that next phase is going to be you having to market your book. And the greatest marketing tool for you is you. It's who you are, you, the author. And I know that means you'll be doing social media, correct? You're going to have to organize a book launch. You're going to have to, be on stages and go to bookstores and all this kind of fun stuff. And the question is, how comfortable are you? That's the big question, because here's the interesting thing. When we have incredible stage presence and we are out there promoting our book, what do you think happens when you have really strong stage presence? Well, of course, you capture and you hold your reader's attention, because it's you. You're pulling them in, right? It's you that's talking about your book and why you did your book. It makes them more likely to engage with you and your book. It makes you, an author, more memorable to them. They're so excited. Oh gosh, I got to meet them, or I got to see them, and I can't wait to read their book. You make them trust you and believe in what you've written. Um, it leads to more word of mouth recommendations, because if somebody falls in love with you and your book, the first thing they're going to do is tell their best friend, you've got to pick up this book. And it also persuades the audience of your book's value and creates a personal brand for you. Suddenly you are who you are as that author, as that writer, and you create that personal brand for yourself. And again, it makes you an asset in the eyes of a publisher. And how fun is that? Because most of my friends who are writers, who are authors, aren't just writing one book. They're now on to the next one, right? Because we as writers, you're ready to write and you can't wait to get that book out there. And then you're going to create a following, and then you're going to want to create that next book. So, question for you, because I have a couple clients that are authors, and one of their biggest fear to me is, Erin, I love the writing process. It was a lot of work. It was so great for me, but I don't know how to market myself. I don't like to speak for myself. I get nervous out there. So, what do you think the percentage of people who are uncomfortable on stage? And you can kind of noodle that around, I wonder, but I'm going to tell you what it is, because you might feel in company. It's actually 70% of people feel uncomfortable when they have to be on stage. And again, like I said earlier, on stage is every room you walk into, bringing your authentic presence to that room. Many people are uncomfortable, so they get nervous. They're unsure of themselves. And so, again, what do you think happens when we are uncomfortable? Just like I said, right? We project uncertainty and then we diminish our presence. We kind of pull ourselves back and we're a little shy and we're not really fully present. And what can happen is you can lose the audience at that point. Their engagement might go down. You lose the power of your own voice, and you are who you are. And suddenly your credibility is diminishing a bit. And it's like, oh, but you really want to be who you are, right? And then dilute the impact of your message. When we hold ourselves back and we're not fully present, the message may not be coming through. You lose the opportunity to attract your audience, and that's missed opportunities for connection. We build our audience by us. It's them falling in love with us, and we really need to be present for them. And we want to have that engagement with them. But if we're holding ourselves back, we're missing out on some of that. And then you miss the opportunity to nurture them. And nurturing, as we all know, is so key. So here's a couple of quotes from some of my clients, and I wonder how many of you might relate to some of these. This is my client, Colleen. She flat out said to me, I often find myself comparing myself to everyone else in my field, and I hold back sharing my unique thought and perspective because I'm afraid I'm as smart or as eloquent as everybody else. That's her comparing herself to other people. The reason she does that is she's not really comfortable and confident in who she is and seeing herself as that unique person. And there's nobody else like her. And then there is my client, Matt. And I wonder how many people relate to this. When I walk on that stage, on that camera and the camera turns on, I freeze up and I suddenly don't feel like myself. And that would even go on farther. I don't even recognize my voice. And this, by the way, is very common in many of the clients I work with. This is why they come to me, is like, how do I break free of this? And the last one is Carla. And I feel disconnected from my audience as if there's some wall between us, which I can't penetrate. And I just know I lose them. And it's because she was uncertain and she put a wall up. I can't be my authentic, unique self. I have to be like everybody else. And here's the thing, your energy on stage, and again, every room you walk into, every virtual thing you're on, is as important as the words you speak. Enthusiasm and passion are contagious. And I know everybody here, you know exactly what I'm talking about because you've experienced this in multiple, events you've been to, conferences you've been to. When this happens, you're pulled in. So the question is, how do we create a winning stage presence? And can I get that question all the time. Can I have my one client, Carol, who, flat out said, I don't know how to radiate my stage presence. I don't know how to do that because I'm an introvert. I'm shy. I don't know how to be in front of an audience. But here's the thing. This is the good news. It doesn't matter if you're an introvert. It doesn't matter if you're shy. When you learn that you have the power in owning and radiating your unique personal presence on stage. When you learn that and understand it and embrace it, you'll realize that, oh yeah, I can do this. I need to break that wall down. I need to be present for my audience. And so how do we do that? Okay. It is bringing your unique presence to stage. How do we do that? Well, it's three-phase approach to this. So the first piece is what I call the inner game. And this is so important and very much missed, by the way, across the board. It is about exploring the depths of who you are and bringing your authenticity and energy to every facet of your presence. And it's not just about understanding who you are, but it's about owning who you are, diving deep and understanding how you stand out uniquely to a point where you get to know yourself so well and you're so confident about who you are that you're no longer worried about who went before you when you speak. And you're no longer comparing yourself or actually being very critical of yourself. I'm not as good as them. Well, here's the thing. Nobody wants you to be a version of somebody else. They want you. And as an author, your readers want to know you. So doing this inner game work is so important. And then the second phase is the outer game work. And this is where you take all that great work you've done and now you're really comfortable and confident about who you are. And now you take that out on the stage. That's about how do I engage with my audience? How do I, stand on that stage and be confident and proud and look at my audience and draw them in? It's learning how to do that and feel really comfortable doing that. And then the last part is putting it together, working it out, practicing it, and making it happen. And what is so great about these three steps, very different than somebody who's just going to get you ready for an event. When you do these three steps, it gets you ready, not just for one event, it gets you ready for every event because it's not transactional. It's getting you ready to be out there present with every single audience you ever come in contact with. And so here's the thing. The gold is the inner game. Absolutely the inner game. This is where when you embrace who you are and understand why you are who you are and how you show up in the world, this is where you make a stronger impact with your authenticity. You forge a deeper connection with your audience and you deliver your message in a much more compelling way because it's coming from a place that is unique and authentic to you. And so I want to teach you today 3 steps to embrace your inner game. And these 3 steps I'm teaching you, you can actually start doing today. And I'm going to tell you how to do them, and you do some work on it, and already you're going to be becoming excited about who you are and thrilled to like, oh, I can't wait to get out there and show the world who I am. So embracing the inner game, what is that? It's 3 steps. It is know what makes you excited. Know your personal values. Know your defining life stories. These are the sources that create a map for you that makes you very unique because there's nobody else that shares these 3 things. This is your story. This is who you are. And I'm going to tell you now, we're going to go into tell me, Erin, know and project what makes me excited. What exactly is that? Well, I always say to people that we always need to tap into who we are and what excites us. And this changes through the years. Like many of you are writers and authors. I mean, I wonder through the years, like where you are today versus where you were 10 years ago, the things that excite you and get you out of bed may be different today than they were 10 years ago. And it's always good to tap back in to those things that make you excited. So, and why is that? These are your building blocks. They are the foundation of your journey, understanding like what gets you out of bed, what just makes you excited, and writing those down are really important. They are also your energizing factors. I mean, one of them for me is I absolutely love theater, film, and television. I can't get enough of it. And when I speak about that or how I bring that up in a conversation, it pulls people towards me. I use that as examples for many of the events that I'm at or the things I'm speaking at about because I know I love it, but also people love it as well. And I'm drawing them in and they get excited about that. So it's like, what energizes you? And then understanding your unique mix. And this is where it's really important because when you define, and I always say, define the 5 things that make you excited. When you figure it out, it's your unique mix. And when you see it, it's amazing what happens to people. They become a little bit more excited about what they're doing and a little bit more engaged and excited about their life, about their career, about what they're doing because we never focus on these things, but when we do, suddenly you're defining a very different picture of who you are. So the question is, Erin, how do I figure out what excites me? Because you'd be amazed how many of my clients are like, I don't know when they first start working with me. And then, of course, you lead them with the questions. And it is amazing to watch the results when people do this one exercise. So here's the thing think about it. And this is what I want you guys to do over the next week. Like pick a day this weekend, maybe, and give yourself an hour and just find what are you passionate about? What drives you? And what do you believe in? Just think about that and just noodle on it for a while and come up with 5 things. And once you do, then I want you to go, why? And write the why out. And then once you write the why out, then I want you to write a story from where that shows up. And then I want you to take a step back and look at it and see how you feel and realize, wow, yes, I love this. This is who I am. And see what it does to you because when you see your 5, what you're going to realize is your 5, no one else has your 5. So automatically you are defining yourself as a unique person. Nobody has your 5. Nobody can compare themselves to you. So do that. I encourage everyone to do just this exercise. And here's the thing. I love Oprah. She's right about it. Passion is energy. Feel the power that comes from focusing on what excites you. So when you have this 5, you start to embrace it, you're going to see a change in how you start showing up. So that's your homework number 1. So we're going to go now into number 2. Know and project your personal values. Now, a lot of people say my values. Well, I know my values, but it's really interesting how many people really have not done a deep dive on their values. And you'd be amazed what a difference owning, picking and owning and defining your 5 unique values will do for you. And you'll be amazed how they will start showing up when you start speaking and you're talking about your book and you're being present because you're really owning them. There's so much power in the values. First thing is they inform your thoughts and your words and your actions. They position you in a way that is unique to you. They provide you with the vocabulary that is also very unique to you. By sharing these aspects of who you are, you become much more real and interesting to your audience. They create a sense of kinship and enhance a bond with your audience. Because if they share similar values to you, they develop a sense of kinship with you. And prior to you sharing it, you're already owning them and you're walking the walk. And honestly, I can tell you when I've had my clients do this particular exercise, I am not kidding you. When they do it, it's like they literally walk differently. They're more proud, they're more excited. They actually share out their values with people because they choose what they are. And it also it really enhances the bond that you will have with your audience. So here, I'm just going to show you this really quickly. I usually go into much, much deeper exercise here, but these are the top 20 values that show up on the value list. Now, when we do this at my company, it's like 100 value types, and we have you narrow it down to 5. And it's a really fun exercise how you get there. But I'm curious, look at this list. Another piece of homework for you. Look at this list. There's going to be one here that's going to pop out for you. One, it always does. And I want you to take some time and I want you to look at that word and think about why. Why does that particular value stick with you? What's the story behind that for you? When you figured that out, you would be amazed the power that you will have when you define not just this one, but you narrow down your top 5 values. You will be amazed the picture that will come out because not only are you picking them and understanding why you chose that particular word, but also when you put a story to it and see that that has shown up so many times in your life, you start to show up in these values and you're getting more and more confident because again, we are creating a unique map for you specifically. Again, nobody has the same 5 values as you do, and they don't have the same stories. So now you're owning them at a much, much deeper level than most people do. So now you've created that second spoke of the inner game. And so and I love this quote from Ralph Waldo. To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. And by doing this kind of work for yourself, you are creating that unique person, that authentic person, and building a level of confidence in yourself that may not have been there prior. And then the third step, very important step, and I love that I'm speaking to writers because you guys will get this, is know and share your defining life stories. And this one, people say, well, Erin, what exactly are our identifying stories, our life defining stories? And they are your personal experiences that have made the biggest impact throughout your life and career. And why are these important? And, I've always been about story. Stories have defined every part of my career and every part of my life. And I have also seen how it moves and they move an audience, but they also move us. They help us get in touch with who we are. And when that happens, it's quite profound how transformative it is as we step into embracing our own unique stage presence. So here's the thing, they hold a treasure trove of insights that bring to life an even richer profile of who you are. The defining life stories are all about overcoming adversity, rising above the call of duty, challenging episodes in your life, moments of joy and wonder. And they each hold a pearl of wisdom that you can rely on and and it gives you that confidence that you need. Like, this is who I am. And when they're strung together, they are a powerful force that surrounds you and will radiate for you on stage. And the specific detail, texture, color, and I love that I'm speaking to authors because you guys get this, is that when you look at that color and texture, uh, you recall the emotions of that story and you can tap in to telling that story at on the stage and be able to pull the audience in, and it's enlightening and transforming not just to you but to your audience. And this is how you can nurture. But by claiming these stories, you're also able to, you're nurturing yourself. You're actually saying, yes, this is who I am. And yes, I need to share that with the world. I can't hold myself back anymore. That is the power of your stories. Um, Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry, people. Let me go. And they help you make a deeper connection with your audience. No surprise at all, but audiences are moved by stories. They want to hear your stories. The more personal, the more enlightened they are, the more you're going to pull your audience to you and they're going to want to know you. And here's the thing, your stories, they set the tone. They set the tone. So, let's say you've now gathered your stories, exactly, who you are and excited, about who you are, and you're ready to take that out. Your stories set the tone for every event you're at. They show your openness and generate great trust. They create a sense of connection and partnership, which that's what we want, right? With our audiences and with your readers, right? You want to create that sort of connection and partnership with them. It makes your presentation and your discussion more entertaining when you're able to use your stories. They provide illustration and enable your audience to live your experience. And they tap into a different part of the brain and improves retention. Um, and that is, I can't say that point enough, that if you are making a point about something, if you use story to back that up, the audience will retain what you said even better. So here's the thing, like, finding your stories is really important. And I know I'm speaking to writers and authors, so I know you probably have gathered a lot of your stories, but I encourage people to really tap into their stories, gather their stories, and start building an arsenal of those stories, and then write them out, and then learn how to speak them so that they can just come right off the cuff when you're actually speaking to an audience. So I do have a free gift I do want to share with everybody, that I have what I call my Secrets to Powerful Stories, and it's my 5 essential steps to crafting and telling compelling stories to impact your audience. And this I highly recommend. This will tell you exactly how to, like, find your stories, you know, catalog your stories, write them out, practice them, get them ready to the point where they just, as if you're just doing off the cuff. I highly recommend all of you, because many of you are going to have to start marketing your book. And when you do, it's going to be really important for you to have those stories fresh and ready to go, because you're going to draw your audience in with that. Like I said earlier, no one wants you to be a version of someone else. They want you. And the start of they want you, us getting comfortable with me being out there, it really starts with embracing the inner game, owning who you are, getting comfortable and confident to a point that as soon as you walk in that room, that comfort and confidence that you have built through your inner game takes you out there and you're ready to make a deep connection with your audience, because the goal is to make that deep connection to your audience and pull them in. And the start of that is you have to be comfortable with who you are and confident and show that confidence on stage. Because when you walk up on that stage and look out at your audience, you want them to be able to sit back and enjoy every moment and not be worried that you're nervous or you're uncertain or you're not comfortable up there. So the first step is doing that inner game work. So that is my story. Thank you very much. And I am so available now for Q&A, Lynda.
Awesome. Erin, go back to your free gift, and how can they get your free gift?
Oh, and I'm so sorry. I meant to send you that link. I have the link, so I can give that link to you. I'll have to figure out how to do that here. I forgot to
just
ask
tell
you
me.
that.
You can
Yeah.
just tell me.
Okay. Let me pull that up over here. Oh, you know what I can do is just do it right here. Because you can see this, right?
Yes.
Is that showing up?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is the powerful stories.
Okay.
And then I also was going to talk about the 10 tips to overcoming stage fright. If anybody was, if that came up in our Q&A, because I know what we usually do once we're through with the inner game work, we step into what I was saying, the outer game work, and everybody's biggest concern is their stage fright. And everybody has a version of stage fright, some version or whatever, like nervousness, whatever, to the point where I've had clients who literally have frozen up on stage and couldn't speak. I mean, everything. We've seen it all, right? And so I created this 10 tips to overcoming stage fright. And it gives you all the things you can do to get ready to get on that stage. And I kind of call it your pregame. And so if anybody is interested in that, please share out that link as well, Lynda.
Yeah, definitely. Send that to me. Just
Okay.
if you can email both of those to me right now, I'll go ahead and drop them in the
Absolutely.
comments. So it's just
Yeah.
Lynda, Lynda at actiontakerspublishing.com. So I was watching this video. It was a YouTube video, and it was this guy was on stage and he was speaking, and then suddenly, boom, he just in the middle of his talk, he went brain dead. And he just stood there and he was like a statue. And then what he did, he got so scared that he literally ran off the stage. And what they said later, like I remember somebody was talking up, doing like a commentary on it, and said the best thing for him to have done at that time would have been actually to do something more along the lines. Maybe he turn around, catch his breath, and then turn back around. But running off the stage was one of the worst things he could have done, because he didn't tell the audience that, you know what, sometimes this happens, and this is what I do to regroup. So do you want to address that a little bit? Like, what do you do when you get that stage fright? You get stage fright before sometimes. Sometimes you get it right in the middle, and sometimes you get it towards the end. But what do you do? What's a suggestion you have for breaking through that stage fright when you're experiencing it?
Yeah, such a great question, Lynda. And what's fascinating about this is one thing I want to share with the audience is the big secret is the audience wants you to succeed. They are cheering you on. They want to sit back and they just want you they want to be entertained by you. A lot of us in our brains think everybody out there is waiting for me to fail. It's just something that's in our head and it can pop up at any time. And it's not true. So that's one thing I want to make really clear. So like this gentleman, the thing he could have done is been honest. Okay. First of all, I would say step away. If there was a podium, just step away, take a deep breath, and literally take that deep breath. Feel your feet on the ground. Be grounded in that stage. And then look at the audience. And like you just said, Lynda, you can say, I apologize. I literally just had a moment. I just need to take a breath. The audience is with you in that honesty. They actually are like, God, thank God he's not perfect. He's human. The audience is like, oh, they're so forgiving. The audience is forgiving. They're not judging you. And so in those moments, I would have, in a moment like that, take that step back, take a deep breath. And I'm talking big cleansing in the diaphragm kind of breath. And just take that pause, feel your feet on the ground, look back out, and just kind of look at the audience, kind of smile. I'm sorry, let me try that again. Right away, boom, they're good. They're good. A lot of that fear is us thinking they're judging us and we're running off the stage. No, we don't want to ever do that, right?
Then they're really judging us.
And then they're really judging because then you're the talk of the town, right? I mean, and you don't want that. But it's such a good question. And that's why, when I put the 10 steps together, I do call it the pregame. And I always tell all my speakers that you need to know what your pregame is. You need to know, and everybody has a pregame. And this is pulled from my performing world. And by the way, I incorporated it when I was in corporate as well. Like I relied on it, but it's like, what is your pregame? Like for me, I need to be quiet 30 minutes before. I don't need to be chit chatting. I'm going to go in the room and I'm going to like warm up. I have warm up exercises. I'll drink some water and I will center myself. That's what Erin needs. And I'm really, really religious about it. And I always encourage anyone who is having to go in front of an audience, big and small, do what you need to do for yourself. Mm-hmm. And be really specific about it and deliberate about it. Because you may have people who are like, hey, Lynda, what you doing? And you're like, hey, I need some time. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you after my event, and just really own that. But I also tell people when they're walking up, well, here's a tip. If you have a speaking event coming up, I always encourage my speakers, if you have access, get into the room a few hours before, the day before, whenever, depending on what it is. Get in the room, walk the room, get on the stage, walk the stage, look out, kind of just see where the seats are like, how the setting is, feel your feet on the ground, walk it, relax in it. That was a game changer for people because the next day when the place is full and they call your name and you're walking up on that stage, it's not foreign. You are already owning that stage. You are owning it because you did that. And I also tell my speakers, remember, your presence starts the moment you walk in that door, not when you walk on that stage. It's like, so do what you can to be fully comfortable and confident in your presence and own it. So if you need to be in that room the day before to check out that stage, go ahead. In fact, I have a client who did that. She was speaking at a huge event in Chicago and I gave her that tip and that's exactly what she did. She went and she found, I think, one of the facilities guys, and it was like 10 o'clock at night. And she says, hey, could you open the room for me? And he did. He said, absolutely. She went in there, did her thing. And she said that made all the difference. She wasn't nervous. And then I will say, then here's your other thing. When you're walking on stage, you're going to walk up that stairs. Of course, every stage is different, right? But pretend there's stairs, right? Walk up on that stage, walk out where the microphone is, if it's mic'd, or if you have to go in the center, whatever, because every stage is different. But take a moment, walk gracefully onto that stage, turn around, look at your audience, kind of acknowledge them, feel your feet on the ground. It's all about grounding you. And in your head, tell yourself and tell the audience, you're not saying this to them, but by smiling at them, you're saying, sit back, I've got this. I'm the doctor, I've got this. You're not saying this out loud, you're saying this to yourself. But by you smiling, grounding yourself, and thinking that in your head, you know what happens to the audience?
They relax.
They relax. They relax and then just go. Take that breath and go. And by the way, this takes a few seconds. We're not talking minutes here. It doesn't take long. But it's your time. Own it. And the audience will relax into it. And then they're just entertained. They're excited to see you. And this is the other thing that I think is really important, especially for our audience. A lot of times you're going to follow somebody. And our primitive brain always likes to tell us, they were so much better. They're so good. Oh God, I can never be like them. We're not saying these out loud, right? It's our head. And what's happening when we do that to ourselves, we're not only cheating ourselves, because we're taking our power away. We're already taking our power away, but you're also cheating the audience because you're taking a bit of your power away. So when you walk out on that stage, you're already coming in at sort of a deficit. And it's like, no. And that's why this inner game work is so important, because when you do this, you realize, like I said earlier, when we show up 100% authentic ourselves, we have no competition. So when you believe that and know that, you are no longer looking at the person who went before you as like, oh, my God, competition and oh, he's so much better than me. You're like, that's so good. Oh, thank you. What a great day. And going on stage and being you. And that's giving the audience such a great experience. And that's really our job, is to give them a great experience.
Yeah,
And we have
yeah.
to own that. Yeah.
One of my favorite things to do when I'm following somebody is to bring up one or two of the points that they brought up, so I can like
Yes.
reflect back to them. So I'm kind of like edifying them at the same time, and it helps
Yes.
me feel better because now I'm actually part of their talk.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yes.
it for me it helps me to move into a bigger state of confidence in what I'm speaking on. Now I
Yeah.
want to talk about something you mentioned, defining life stories.
Mhm.
And I wrote down, so here's what I wrote down. I'm going to share with the audience this because I want you to think about it from this perspective, because
Mhm.
Erin's talking about, these defining life stories. And you said, like, what are some stories that were like, maybe they were your aha moments? They were things that happened in your life that were like, whoa, these were life altering moments, and thinking about those. So what I did is I wrote down kind of like a timeline of some of the different, stages in my life that have happened, that have been, instrumental times in my life. And I'm just going to run through them real quick because then I'm going to tell you what I did with these, Erin. Okay. So
Cool. Love it.
so first I ran away at 5 years old and I was gone a week. So, okay, I'm going to mute you while I'm talking because, there's a little bit of background noise when I'm talking there. So I'm just going to mute you for a second. Okay. So here's what I wrote down. I ran away at 5 years old and I was gone for a week. I married at age 20 and I was divorced by 21, and I had two kids. Okay, so two babies in 18 months. I learned to play bass guitar at age 47. I had 49 jobs in 36 years. I became an entrepreneur at age 51. Also at age 51, I became an entrepreneur. We sold my childhood home and downsized, got rid of 85% of our belongings, and became campground hosts at a local park in San Diego. And that was when my journey really started. So after that, there's a lot more things that happened after that. But what I did with those little snippets, like they're literally just little snippets that I wrote here, I went into ChatGPT. I typed these little things in here, just these little snippets, and I said, ChatGPT, what are my defining life stories? And it shot out these awesome examples of how I can use those stories and what the lessons learned are. And now it's
Mhm.
not the end all be all, but it's a guide. I was able
Yeah.
to use ChatGPT as a guide. And so you're really thinking about your, life, those life stories. Here's the question I have for you, Erin. I have these defining life stories. And what if I feel like they don't pertain to, the audience? How can I discover the importance, the value of my life story so that I can share with others and have some value when I'm sharing?
It's such a great question. And that's the beauty of story, right? Because we can always find something in it if we want to share it. So I always tell people that a story is ready to be told because we're the storyteller. A story is ready to be told when you can tell it. If it's a sad story, you can tell it without crying and you can tell it without laughing. It's a funny story. You are the storyteller. The goal is to have the audience be pulled in and the audience to have the emotional reaction to the story. The tears come from the audience, not from us, or the laughter. We just get to be the storyteller. So it's nice to be on the other side. So always say you have to be on the other side of the story and be ready to tell that story. And then for you, this is where what I was talking about earlier, the color, the texture, the detail, the emotion of your story. Like you wrote down story snippets, right? And I would say, let's flesh out that story because I want to know the color, the texture, the detail. like you getting, running away at 5 years old. I want to hear that whole story. But right now it's just a story snippet, right? But in that story, there may be, and there probably is, something you can use when talking to your clients or when using it in a presentation. And that's the beauty of drawing out our stories and why that color and texture is so, so important, because it's in there that you find that golden thread. And you'll use all, oh, that's a good one, because I want to know, like, your story, like 5 years old, I ran away. I mean, first of all, for a week. I mean, I know people ran away for 2 hours, but I mean, a week, I want to know more of that story. As an audience member, you sparked my curiosity. That's what's beautiful about story. You're sparking curiosity, and I want to know more. And by you diving into that story and your other ones, because you have amazing stories, it's in the detail that you're going to find, oh yeah, I know how I'm going to use this for my audience. Almost every one of your stories, especially with your journey story, you will find ways of using that in your story when talking to clients and in your presentations. But it's about doing the deep dive and finding that emotion and finding that connection. And also, Lynda, I would look at too, like you just gave a litany of stories through your life, and they're brilliant, right? There's also a common thread, a common theme, and it's the theme that I could totally see you using with your clients. Totally with you in a presentation. It depends on what the presentation is, right? I mean, I think about what you do now with authors, and I mean, holy cow, look what you've done with your life to where you are today. That's an incredible story of resilience, an incredible story of not giving up, of, you were, beat down how many times, and you're like, you got right back up. I want to hear those stories. And that's what inspires an audience. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, oh,
Yeah.
definitely. Thanks for that. And I was asking that question more for the audience because I do have my theme. Like I know what my
Yeah.
theme is. It's breaking
Yeah.
through fears, and I speak on that all the time. But
Yeah.
for you listening, like to really think about your stories have value. This is why we do what we do at Action Takers Publishing, is to get your stories out there. Is that your stories have value, but it's kind of like finding the thread. What's that common thread between these various stories that make them fit you to whatever it is that you're speaking about that day, wherever it is you're speaking, whether it's on a summit, somebody's stage, or being interviewed on a podcast, really just kind of like figuring out what those common threads are between that. And so I have this idea, and I'm going to invite you, Erin. I'm going to invite you to do this with me, and anybody
Okay.
watching who wants to do this with me. What I'm going to do is, I tell stories all the time. This is kind of, I become a storyteller, and I
Yes.
love doing it, but I don't do it. I only do it like when I'm in meetings and what have you. I don't do it intentionally as like, I don't do stories as videos. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 5 days of storytelling, and I'm going to
Mhm.
pick five of my most prominent stories that have really
Mhm.
shaped who I am today. And I'm going to tell those stories. Now, the stories I'm going to choose are all going to be related to a theme. And so you mentioned resilience. That's a great one. So
Yeah.
I'm going to have my theme is going to be resilience. So I'm going to look at my stories. I'm going to choose five of them, and I'm going to do a live video 5 days in a row telling a story. And the story is going to be resilience. Now, there's a saying that I've heard, and I'm sure many of you have heard this, is that every story should have a point and every point should have a story. And so I'm going to really look at what's the point of my story. Why am I telling this particular one? It's going to be, of course, to encourage people that to keep going, right? When you
Yeah.
get knocked down, keep going. And so that's a challenge. I'm going to challenge you with, Erin. I don't know if you want to take me up on the challenge, or if you're watching right now, I see we have several people in the audience there. If you want to take up that challenge, just drop challenge in the comments there. And I'd love to, see everybody do this, because this is an opportunity for you to share who you are. And that was one of the things you were mentioning, Erin, like that authenticity piece, right? That was like that number one on the chart you listed of all the different values. And authenticity, gives you an opportunity to show up as who you are. And I literally just came up with this challenge just now. And
I
so
love it.
are you going to do it, Erin? I'll put you
I
on spot.
totally do it. I think it's great. And I encourage everybody, in the room to also do the same thing. And it's fun. It's fun to tell your stories because people love story. They want to hear your story. And I like the idea you pick a theme and just tell 5 stories. And you'll be amazed at what you learn about yourself as you're
Yeah.
telling these stories. And when you're telling your stories, so here's the thing, because you want to do it on video. So, one thing that we teach, in the stage presence stuff is obviously the camera confidence piece, right? And so I always tell people, like, look at that camera when you're telling your story and pretend that camera is your best friend. You're telling the story to your best friend. And forget it's a camera. Pretend you're sitting across coffee with your best friend at Starbucks and you're telling them the story. It will make such a difference in your video when you put it out there because people will think you are talking to them. And it's kind of cool. So that's my little tip to do that in shooting these videos. This would be fun.
And one thing you can do, I've known people that have, like, say you're doing the video on your camera, on your computer. So we have a tendency to look at ourselves. So now, if I was looking at myself, I'd be looking down here. I would not be looking at you guys. So I'm looking at my camera right now. And so what I know a lot of people will do is they'll block up their screen so they don't see themselves, and they kind of forces you to look at the camera. Another thing that you can do is, like you mentioned, Erin, like you're talking to your friend, is put a cutout of your friend right behind your camera. So you're looking beyond your camera and you're looking at your friend, and you actually see that friendly face over there. If you have a hard time with the camera. Anya has accepted the challenge.
Yes, Anya. Yes, love it.
5
Can't
days
wait.
of videos. I'm excited about this. So, Erin, what's the number one? Okay, you mentioned that there were 10. You said stage fright things. Is that what it was?
And steps of stage fright. Yeah.
Do you want to give us like 2 of those, and then because we want to invite them to download, right? Is it a download?
Yeah. Yes. So I know I already talked about walking in the room and checking out the stage. That is one of the keys. That'll help you with the stage fright. So let me think about 2 more because I also said, do your pregame, right? Here's a big tip. Before you go on, run around the room. I know you're going to laugh at that, right? You're going to go, what the heck? No.
Immediately.
Run around the room, jumping jacks, do whatever. Get the blood flowing. Seriously, do this 5 minutes before. Get the blood. Suddenly your face looks, more color to it and your body is more relaxed. Just use your body and you will be amazed what a difference it makes. Because when we stand and we're waiting, we get rigid. And if you can just, flop the hands around, run around the room, whatever is good for you, honestly, it's one of the best things you could do for yourself before you go on.
Okay, I have another thing you guys can do. So, like Erin's mentioning the moving around, so I immediately thought of this. Okay, you ready? You ready? There you do the chicken dance.
That'll bring great joy to the room.
And you can start a conga line doing the.
You can totally do conga.
That would be fun.
I love that. And you know what? The other thing I would encourage people to do, because one of the things I hear from everybody is, oh my God, I get up on stage and I'm dry mouth. This is what I want you to do. Do not drink caffeine. Okay, like get your caffeine in the morning, right? Do your thing. After you've had if you are a coffee tea person, have your coffee tea, right? The rest of the day, sip water. And by the way, not cold water. Tepid water or just room temperature water. Cold water, by the way, constricts your throat. So just so you know, tepid water, like room temperature, and sip all day. Just keep sipping, because what you're doing is what's happening is when we get dry, we're hydrated. When we get nervous, we literally get dehydrated. It uses all of that, right? It's taking moisture away when we get nervous. So if you're sipping water all day, just sip it. I'm not talking like this, just sip all day. And then when you get on stage, make sure there's water up there, especially if you're up there for an hour. I mean, seriously, make sure there's water. Just sip it. But I'm telling you, it will make a huge difference if you're sipping water all day and you're hydrating when you get up on that stage, because nerves automatically will dry you up. But if you've been hydrating all day, you're probably not going to feel dry up there. So I highly recommend that. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's an awesome tip. That is an awesome tip. I love it. This is so good, Erin. Gosh, we're out of time already. I hate that the
Time
time
goes so
tick.
fast.
I
Linda's
hate
so
that
much
time
fun.
ticks. Time just
Yeah,
ticks, moves into the future, you know?
it does.
There's a song there somewhere. Okay, well, I'm excited to see that you, me, and Anya were taking on that challenge of doing 5 days in a row of telling part of our story. And again, finding what's that common thread, of the story that you want to tell. So that way, 5 days in a row, you have a focus. That's really the reason why I said, choose a theme, because this way you have a focus when you go on there. And you know what? You might stumble, you might mumble. There might be some things you say, you're like, oh, I can't believe I said that. But that's okay. You're doing it. You're doing
Yeah.
it. Most people
Yeah.
won't even do it. So
Yeah.
taking up this challenge is going to be something that's going to be very beneficial for you. If you want to learn how to gain more confidence while you're on stage, again, whether it's, showing up at a conference call, showing up at a client call, showing up on a physical stage, showing up on a virtual stage. If you want more help with that, please reach out to Erin. She is here to help you do that. And you can find her at inspirationsqrd.com. And why don't you tell us why you named it Inspiration SQRD instead of squared? Like, what does it mean?
So I'll tell you why. So I left corporate America, and my husband's like, you're not going to leave. You need to start a company. But I'm like, I don't want to do a company. He goes, doesn't matter. When you leave, you need to have a presence of some sort. So we sat around 2 or 3 days before I left, and he says, what do you want to do? And I said, I don't know what I want to do next, but all I know is I want to take all the skills and the passion and experiences and wisdom and do something where I'm making a difference and inspiring others. And he goes, inspiration. So we're like, inspiration over here. And we talked about others, and somehow or another we thought squared. Like, you tell one person, they tell another, and it goes like this.
Right.
So that's how that happened. So I have to thank my lovely husband, who encouraged me not to leave corporate America with, hey, if you want to continue to follow me, here's my Gmail address. I left with a company name, a company logo, and a business phone number, and it shocked everybody. I had no idea I was going to start.
That's so awesome. I love it. See, these names, they all have a story, right? So there's a short story right there just talking about the genesis of the name of her company. We all have stories. There's stories in every single thing that you do. And so really kind of figuring out, what is that story? What is the theme? And then what is the benefit? Like, what's the value? So when we talk about resilience, which will be my theme for the week, talking about resilience, my hope is that my video will touch somebody to help them see, I got to keep going. That's my hope. That's what I want to accomplish. So Erin, thank you so much for being here and sharing all your brilliant wisdom. I love it. Great presentation, of course. And you don't have to be on the stage of Oklahoma, or The Sound of Music, one of my favorites. You don't have to be on that kind of stage to be on stage and have that presence about you, that when you show up, people are going to listen to you. So please reach out to Erin, connect with her, find out how you can work with her to gain more confidence while you're on that stage. Erin, thanks so much again for being here, being part of this, and sharing your brilliance.
Yes, thank you so much, Lynda. I really appreciate it. This has been a fun hour. I always love being with you, and this was just fantastic. Thank you.
Fun is always good. So let's hear from one of our clients, Amy Stevens, who gained some confidence by sharing her story in one of our collaboration books.
You took the overwhelm out of the whole entire process. You said you set the guidelines, you said how many words to have. And it's like, once I sat down and started typing, it just all came out so quickly and so easily. And I loved it. And I had fear to write. And I know about that. I know about that blockage within myself, but it just was so amazing how easy the process was working with Action Takers Publishing.